Not every beneficiary is technology savvy. And unfortunately, the SRD grant is only online. So in order for you to access the grant, you need to have access to a smartphone first of all. Second of all, you have to have data. And third of all, you have to be tech savvy, because it might sound very easy, but it's not easy at all. It's actually a very technical grant. There is so many issues that beneficiaries doesn't even know exist. And this is where we as Spider Grants fit in.
And we understand the importance of alternative data in scoring is really now bringing in or addressing the challenge of information asymmetry, because we see using the traditional way of scoring does not really capture or does not really bring in the life experiences and economic experiences that these farmers or individuals go through, which could help in strengthening their credit worthiness and unlock financial services to them.
Due to lack of sex disaggregated MIS, the financial service providers, they cannot establish business case for serving low-income women. And they don't have a very clear understanding of the female market. Especially if I can say, whenever any financial service provider, they just think to invest in the women market, they can't read very clearly about the women's need and behavior, as there is a lack in the sex disaggregated data.
When we're talking about, is it worth all the way to do all of this? I would definitely yes, because the multiplier effect of empowering women from financial perspective lies at the perspective that women who are financially empowered tend to invest more in their family's health, their family's educations and well-being, which then creating a more multiplier effect that strengthen both communities.
And then another one that has come out very strongly really has been around regulatory loopholes or regulatory gaps, especially in line with some of the new innovations that we are seeing in finance. And that goes still around issues like cryptocurrencies, around issues of digital lending apps, where there is no particular authority that's usually mandated to set up consumer protection mechanisms around them, but also because it's something that has been new, so it's not falling in different existing frameworks around credit, around payments, around banking. So we've had a lot of feedback around that. In terms of the consumers that have actually experienced harm, I would say that these are over 1 million consumers really, when you're looking at particularly Africa and Asia and Latin America, where we've tried to get more consumer-centered data. We're seeing over 10 million consumers who are getting affected or experiencing harm.
When people do get online, men and women may use the internet at relatively similar rates, but women tend to use it for fewer use cases. And so they're not necessarily doing as many things and exploring the range of options there as much. So those, I think, are some of sort of like the technology barriers, and they may affect men and women, though women disproportionately. But we also, kind of all know that women and girls face a pervasive set of social norms and structural barriers that don't necessarily impact men and boys in the same way.
What was really clear is that the business of these financial institutions hinge on the resilience and the health of their clients. For a woman living in poverty, her health is her greatest asset. What we've seen also interestingly is the integration of telemedicine alongside some of these financing products, or the integration of other primary care providers alongside financing. So it's almost like a bundled product where financing isn't just, here's a loan, but financing is really about what is actually the need beyond the financial component. How do we think about it from a system strengthening perspective?
As I mentioned before, our mission to connect, empower, an inclusive digital economy that benefits everyone, everywhere. Talked about that before, but a part of that, how we in other companies can leverage capabilities that are designed to identify, quantify, but also mitigate bias in data sets. Because that's the basis of what Seal and others are going to be using these data sets for. And it's not just to ensure that these models aren't producing biases, but also to assess and address if the underlying data sets themselves are biased. So starting there at that base really gets thinking about how this, with our mission, can support the equitable financial ecosystems in looking at the core data itself and what we can all do to identify but also mitigate bias.
If we want to close the financial inclusion gap in the next decade, we must fix the digital divide first. This isn't a tech issue, it is a gender equality issue. We need to invest in digital literacy programs that target women and need to rethink how we design and deliver financial products. If women aren't accessing these tools, the fault doesn't lie with them, but with the system that was designed without their needs in mind.
In India, crop insurance, it's subsidized sometimes as much as 90%, by the state. It's a key part of the success. And when you look at, agriculture insurance in France, agriculture insurance in the US, the levels of subsidies are similar. In France last year, the subsidy was increased from 60 to 70%. It's difficult to imagine that a smallholder farmer in Burkina Faso or these other countries where we're working would be able to pay on his or her own.
From the context of the United States, we're facing two massive systemic challenges at this moment. One is the existential and wellness threats that are just part and parcel of the climate crisis. And the other are like the social and democratic risks that kind of come from having continually widening racial and gender wealth gaps. And so I think the nexus of addressing climate change and targeting greenhouse gas emissions reductions is also ensuring that the financial opportunities that are going to be presented are recognized equitably, and that the communities that are most adversely impacted, frontline communities, have the knowledge, skills, resources, and access to capital that really allows them to be full participants in designing and developing the solutions that are going to serve them best.
We find that women are significantly less likely to make use of formal complaints channels. You see that 45% of subscribers, mobile money subscribers, are female, yet only 35% of complaints are lodged by women. Women are maybe equally exposed or even more exposed to risks, but are not willing to report those to our enumerators. And so that's why we are pushing, one thing that seems like a through line throughout this conversation is the need for multiple data sources.
In Jamaica, 113% is our mobile penetration. So even if you don't have a bank account, persons in Jamaica have one, some have two, some have three mobile phones, and these are smartphones. Yeah? All right, so with that statistic in mind, how do we get access to the unbanked and the vulnerable? We widen the scope of entities, financial entities that could be wallet providers by providing wallets to individuals. So it was a mix of wholesale and retail. So we had our usual commercial banks, but we had another category, payment service providers. And these are entities that are testing payment products in our regulatory sandbox. So they are eligible to distribute JAMDEX on behalf of the central bank.
One of the key features of Emprendiendo Mujer is that this product does not require the husband's signature to access the credit. That is very important. No? This is critical because this ensures our clients' financial independence. Another thing is that we facilitated access to credit through our mobile app, providing a greater flexibility and convenience to these women entrepreneurs, offering more agile and modern financial experience, I think.